The market was loud, filled with shouts, strange smells, and the clash of voices. Merchants called out, waving their goods, buyers bargained, and children ran between stalls. Yet in all this noise, there was a quiet corner. A corner where two small figures stood still, almost invisible. One was a tiny alien girl, her clothes torn and covered in dust. Her skin was pale and her eyes far too big for her thin face. She looked not at the bright jewelry or shiny machines on display. She looked only at food, at the bread loaves stacked high, at the fruit that glistened in the sun. Her stomach growled so loudly that she pressed her hand against it, ashamed. Beside her was an even smaller girl, her little sister, clutching her arm tightly. The younger one whispered, "I'm hungry." Her voice was so soft it almost vanished in the air. The older sister nodded, her lips trembling. "I know, I'll find something, I promise." But promises could not be eaten, and hunger had no patience. Not far away, a human trader walked through the market. He was not rich, not powerful, just another traveler with a bag over his shoulder. He had seen many markets like this on different worlds, but today something pulled his eyes toward the shadows. He stopped when he saw them, the two girls, too thin, too weak, and too desperate. The older girl reached out toward a passing stall. Her hand hovered near a piece of bread left too close to the edge. But before she could take it, the merchant slapped her hand away. "Thief!" the merchant shouted. His voice was loud and other people turned to look. The girl pulled her sister back in fear. "I wasn't stealing," she whispered. But no one listened. The human trader frowned. His steps carried him closer. The older girl's knees buckled. She staggered and fell to the ground. Her sister cried out, trying to hold her, but she was too small. The crowd laughed. Some shook their heads. No one helped. To them, it was normal to see beggars fall. The human knelt beside her. His voice was calm but firm. "Easy, don't move." He opened his bag and pulled out a piece of bread. The little sister's eyes widened. The older one tried to shake her head, her pride still strong even in weakness. "No, we can't. We don't." But the human pressed the bread into her hands. "Eat, both of you," he said. The younger girl tore off a piece so fast she almost choked. The older one forced herself to take a small bite. She chewed slowly, as if afraid the food might vanish. Her eyes filled with tears. The human gave them water next. The girls drank greedily. Their small hands trembled. "Better?" he asked. The older girl looked up at him. Her voice was shaky. "Why? Why would you help us?" He smiled faintly. "Because you need it." That simple answer seemed strange to her, as if she had never heard such words before. She glanced down, ashamed. "We have nothing to give you back," she whispered. The human shook his head. "I didn't ask for anything." But the girl pressed her hand into her pocket. After a moment, she pulled something out. Her little fingers opened to reveal a small, cracked toy. It was made of dull alien glass, one wing broken. It looked worthless, yet she held it out with both hands as if it was treasure. "This is all I have," she said softly. "If you take it, it means you fed us with honor." Her voice was quiet, but there was strength in it. The human looked at the toy, then at her. Something about it glowed faintly under the sun. Or maybe it was only his imagination. He did not take it, not yet. Instead, he looked at her eyes, hungry but proud, weak but still burning with something. It was in that moment he realized this was not just about food. These girls were not only starving, they were fighting to survive in a world that did not care. If they lived or died, the market noise continued. But for him, it faded away. All he saw were two children, one holding out a broken toy, the other clutching the last piece of bread as if it was life itself. The human had entered the market as just a traveler, but now he knew his path had shifted. Something had started here, something that would not end with one loaf of bread. He looked at the toy again, and this time he reached out slowly. The girl's eyes widened as he touched it, and for a second, he thought he saw the faint glow again. What was this toy? Why did she guard it so closely? And why did his heart feel heavier the moment he touched it? The little sister tugged at his sleeve, whispering, "Thank you, human." Her voice was soft but filled with trust. The older one only looked at him with those hungry eyes, eyes that carried a story far bigger than food, eyes that warned him that danger might follow. The human took a deep breath, for now he had only given them bread, but he felt as if he had stepped into something far greater. The market was no longer just a place of trade. It had become the beginning of a promise that would change everything. The human held the broken toy in his hand. It was cold, smooth, and a little heavy. The wing was chipped, but there was a strange glow inside the glass, soft and pulsing, almost like it was alive. He didn't understand why such a thing made his chest feel tight. The older alien girl stood before him, thin arms crossed as if protecting herself. Her sister sat beside her, chewing slowly, eyes still wide from the food. The girl looked up, speaking in a serious voice that didn't match her small body. "You took the toy, so now we are bound." The human blinked. "Bound?" She nodded. "In my culture, if someone accepts a gift in return for kindness, that becomes a silent deal." The human glanced at the toy again. "And what kind of deal is this?" The girl hesitated, her eyes lowered. "We don't have anything else, but now we must follow you." He frowned. "You don't have to do that. I only wanted to help. I didn't mean for—" "It doesn't matter what you meant," she said firmly. "You gave food when no one else would. You didn't take anything from us, not even our names. That means you're safe." He studied her face, bruised, dirt-smudged, and yet somehow calm. "What are your names?" he asked softly. The girl hesitated, then said, "I'm Lyra. She's sorry." "Sorry," the little sister looked up and waved shyly, crumbs on her cheeks. "My name is Raylan," the human said gently. "I'm just passing through this market. I'm not staying long." Lyra didn't smile. She simply said, "We'll follow you until we are safe. That is the deal." Raylan sighed. He could walk away, leave them behind, pretend nothing happened, but something deep inside him, something quiet and stubborn, refused to let go. He put the toy in his bag and stood up. "Then let's get out of here before those men come back." They moved fast, weaving through alleys behind the stalls. Lyra knew the turns better than he did. Sometimes she pulled his sleeve, whispering where to go. Sari held his hand tightly, as if afraid he'd vanish if she let go. After a while, they reached a small, cracked shelter built between old stone walls. It wasn't much, just a roof and some boxes, but the girls had made it home. Lyra sat down, her legs finally shaking. "We've lived here since our mother vanished," she said. "She went to find food and never came back." Rollin knelt beside her. "How long ago?" "8 nights," she whispered. "We counted the stars." He felt a cold anger rise in his chest. This world, this market, had let 2 children survive like animals, and no one cared. Sari reached into a bag she carried and pulled out another strange object, a half-drawn picture on a metal slate. It showed a woman with long horns and soft eyes. "Our mother," Lyra said quietly. "She told us to stay hidden, to trust no one." "But you trusted Mo." Raylan said gently. She looked at him, her voice small. "Because you gave without asking." Raylan leaned back, watching the night fall outside the shelter. "Do you know who those men were?" Lyra nodded slowly. "They work for the traders' chain. They take children who have no parents. They say it's for safety, but we know better." He had heard rumors of such things. Black markets, secret ships, missing people. "They want this toy," Lyra added. "Not because it's shiny, but because it means something." "What does it mean?" She hesitated, then touched the cracked glass. "This toy belonged to the last seer of my people. My mother said it was passed down in blood. It glows when we are near someone who will protect us." Raylan stared. "Protect you?" "It glowed when I held it." Lyra nodded. "That's why I gave it to you." A long silence filled the air. Sari crawled into Raylan's lap and fell asleep. Her breathing was slow, steady, safe. "You don't have to protect us," Lyra said finally. "But if you do, we will never leave your side." Raylan looked at her. Her face was brave, but her eyes were tired. He reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll protect you," he said softly. "But first, we need to get off this planet." Lyra's eyes widened. "You have a ship?" "I know someone who does," he replied, "but it won't be easy. If they see us, they'll follow, especially if they know you still have the heirloom." She touched the toy through his bag. "They will never stop." "Then we won't stop either," he said. Outside, the wind howled through the cracks. In the darkness, unseen eyes searched the alleys. The market never truly slept, and danger never truly left. But inside that small shelter, 3 souls sat together. 1 human, 2 alien girls, and a toy that glowed faintly. The deal had been silent, but powerful, not of gold or trade, but of kindness, trust, and something even deeper, hope. Raylan sat beside the fire he had built from old crates and scraps. Lyra and Sari huddled close, wrapped in his spare cloak. The flames danced in their wide eyes, cast casting shadows on the cracked walls of their shelter. Outside, the wind still cried through the alleys, but inside, there was warmth, just enough to feel human again. Rowland took the strange toy from his bag and turned it slowly in his hand. It was smaller than his palm, shaped like a winged creature. Maybe a bird, maybe a dragon. The glass was cracked on one side, and one wing had broken off long ago. Still, the center of the toy glowed faintly, like a soft heart beating in the silence. Sari reached out and touched it gently. "It used to sing," she whispered. Raylan looked up. "Sing?" Lyra nodded, her voice quiet. "When our mother held it, it would hum softly. She said it could feel her spirit." Raylan studied the toy again. "It didn't sing for me." Lyra looked thoughtful. "It only sings for blood." That word made him pause. "You mean family?" She nodded slowly. "Yes. It was made to guide the bloodline. Our people believed it would glow and sing only when the family was near." Sari climbed into Rowland's lap again, like she had done the night before. He didn't mind. Her tiny body was light, and her trust felt heavier than anything else he had ever carried. Lyra watched the fire, her voice barely above a whisper. "They hunted our mother for it. The trader's chain knew it was special. They don't care about family, they just want power." Raylan turned the toy again, but this time he pressed a small groove near the base. With a soft click, the glass glowed brighter, and a single high tone echoed into the air. The 2 girls gasped. Sari clapped her hands. "It sang!" But Lyra's face went pale. "That sound, it will call them." Raylan's eyes narrowed. "You mean they can track it?" She nodded. "Only if it's activated. That sound is like a signal. Only a few can hear it, but those few will come." He immediately turned the toy back over and pressed the same groove again. The light faded, and the hum died. The silence after the tone felt heavier than before. Raylan whispered, "Why give me something so dangerous?" Lyra answered, "Because it's the only thing we have worth. Anything. And because it chooses who can carry it safely." He stared at her. "And it chose me?" "Yes," she said simply. The fire crackled between them, but something deeper was burning in the air. A feeling that this toy was not just a broken thing from a child's pocket. It was something ancient, something that tied blood, memory, and danger together. Rowland leaned back against the wall, his eyes fixed on the toy. In all his travels, he had never carried something like this, never held so much weight in something so small. And now, he was no longer just a trader, he was something else. Protector, maybe, or target, maybe both. Lyra broke the silence. "There's something inside it." "What do you mean?" Raylan asked. "Our mother told us," Lyra said. "Before she left, she said, 'If the toy ever glows without me, it means it has chosen someone strong, someone who can open it.'" Raylan turned the toy over, his fingers exploring every edge. He felt a soft click again, this time different, deeper. A small hatch on the back opened slowly. Inside was a folded piece of star metal, engraved with tiny alien symbols. Raylan couldn't read them, but Lyra leaned in, her eyes wide. "It's our family crest," she whispered. That's proof we're descendants of the first seer. Raylan looked at her. Is that important? Lyra's face darkened. To some, it's holy. To others, it's dangerous. They say the first seer had visions of freedom, visions that scared the rulers. Now it made sense. This wasn't just a keepsake. This was proof of legacy, of identity, something worth killing for. Raylan closed the hatch carefully and returned the toy to his bag. I think I know why they want it, he said, and why you've been hunted. Sari yawned, leaning against him. Lyra looked at the fire, her voice heavy with fear. They'll come for it again. Raylan nodded. Then we don't wait. We leave at first, Lee. Aight. Lyra blinked. Where? There's a freighter leaving tomorrow, headed for the outer systems. A friend of mine can sneak us aboard. It's not safe, but it's better than staying here. Lyra looked at her sister, asleep and peaceful for the first time in days. She looked back at Raylan and nodded once. Then we follow you, human. The fire faded slowly. In the deep night, the broken toy slept in his bag, glowing faintly, but far across the market, someone else had heard the tone. A tall figure in a dark cloak turned his head slowly. He smiled without joy. It's awake, he whispered. And they found someone foolish enough to hold it. Raylan awoke before the sun touched the sky. He sat up slowly, careful not to wake Sari, who was curled against his side like a sleeping kitten. Lyra was already awake, sitting near the door of the shelter, her eyes fixed on the alley beyond. She didn't turn as he joined her. They're here, she said quietly. Raylan froze. Are you sure? She nodded. I saw one last night, standing near the fruit stall. He didn't buy anything, didn't move, just watched. Raylan clenched his jaw. We have to leave now. Lyra pointed to the bag slung across his back. Is the toy still with you? He touched the bag gently. Safe and quiet. Lyra stood, brushing the dust off her knees. She didn't look afraid, just ready. She had the eyes of someone who had been chased before, too many times. They woke Sari gently. She blinked in confusion, then smiled sleepily when she saw Raylan, but her smile faded when she saw her sister's serious face. It's time to run again, isn't it? She whispered. Lyra kissed her forehead. Just one more time. They stepped into the morning light, the market not fully alive yet. Most stalls were still closed, only a few early sellers setting up. Raylan led the way, walking fast but calm. They couldn't afford to look like they were fleeing. He had a contact named Bren, a smuggler who owed him a favor. Bren had access to a cargo freighter leaving the planet before midday. The plan was simple. Get to Bren, board the Yishanimo freighter, and vanish. But simple plans rarely stay simple. As they moved through the alleys, Raylan noticed the shadows moving too. Men dressed in traders' robes, but with sharp eyes and hidden weapons. They were watching, not approaching, not attacking, just watching. They know we're leaving, he muttered. Lyra squeezed his arm. They're waiting for the right moment. He guided them through a narrow street, then turned into a dim passage behind a spice shop. Bren's warehouse was just 2 turns away. They didn't make it that far. A tall figure stepped out from the alley ahead, blocking their path. His cloak was dark, his eyes colder than stone. Behind him, 2 others appeared silently. Where are you going, traveler? The man asked, voice smooth but sharp like broken glass. Raylan stepped in front of the girls. Just passing through. The man's gaze fell on Lyra, then on Sari. Then he looked at Raylan's bag. There's something you carry that belongs to us. Raylan didn't move. I don't carry anything stolen. Oh, I believe you. The man smiled. But the item found you, didn't it? Little Lyra gave it, didn't she? A gift of gratitude. How touching. Lyra's hands clenched into fists. You have no right, she snapped. It was my mother's, not yours. The man tilted his head. Your mother was foolish, just like her daughters. Raylan stepped forward, voice cold. Walk away. The man chuckled. Or what? You'll fight us? For 2 starving brats and a glowing toy? Raylan didn't speak. He simply reached into his coat and pulled out a compact shock blade. Its blue light hissed softly. The man raised his eyebrows. You carry weapons now, Traitor-turned-warrior? I protect what I choose, Raylan replied, and I chose them. For a moment, time froze. Then the man gave a slow nod. Very well, human. Run if you wish, but know this. There's no world far enough, no frayed eyes. Fast enough, you carry something that will always call us. He stepped back into the shadows, vanishing with the others. The alley was empty again, but the weight of danger had grown heavier. Lyra grabbed Raylan's hand. He let us go. No, Raylan whispered. He marked us. They reached Bren's warehouse just minutes later. Bren, a broad-shouldered man with cybernetic arms, frowned as he saw them. You brought trouble, he muttered. Raylan nodded. Can you still get us out? Bren sighed. The freighter's ready, cargo bays sealed. You'll be riding with the crates. Not pretty, but it'll hide your heat. He glanced at the girls. You sure about this? Raylan looked at them, Lyra holding Sari close, eyes still watching every shadow. Yes, he said firmly. They're my responsibility now. Bren led them through a side door. Inside, the ship waited, massive and quiet. Cargo crates lined the walls, and deep in the back, a small space had been cleared. Hide there, Bren said. Once we launch, no turning back. Raylan helped the girls in. Tucking the cloak around them, he followed and closed the crate door. As darkness wrapped around them, Lyra whispered, Do you think they'll follow? Raylan held the toy close, its glow hidden beneath fabric. Yes, he said, but they won't find us yet. In the silent dark of the cargo bay, the broken toy pulsed with light, and far behind, back on the planet, the man in the dark cloak whispered to his men. Let them go, he said. For now. The freighter shook as it lifted off the ground. Metal groaned around them, and the small crate they hid in rattled with every movement. Sari clung to Lyra, her tiny arms tight and shaking. Raylan wrapped his arms around both girls, holding them steady as the ship soared into the sky. The sound of the engines roared outside, but inside the crate, it was quiet. Too quiet. Are we safe now? Sa. Ree whispered into Raylan's chest. He looked at Lyra, who looked back without answering. Raylan didn't lie, not to children who had already heard too many lies. No, he said softly, but we bought time. Hours passed, and the freighter slipped into orbit. The girls slept, curled up against Raylan while he stayed awake. His mind replayed the warning from the man in the alley. They weren't just being hunted, they were being watched, followed, studied. When the freighter docked at a refueling station on the outer edge of the system, Bren opened the crate. We've got a problem, he said quickly. Dock security found something odd on their scans. They're stalling me, asking questions they shouldn't be asking. Raylan stood, already grabbing his bag. They know we're on board. Not for sure, Bren muttered. But they're sniffing too close. I can get you to the lower port level. From there, it's market streets, wide, messy, and perfect for hiding. Lyra was already helping Sari stand, her small face calm. Raylan touched Bren's shoulder. Thanks. Don't thank me yet, Bren said. They might already be here. The lower port was chaos. Vendors shouted in alien tongues. Robots rolled past carrying crates. Travelers and merchants brushed by each other like dust in the wind. Noisy, messy, unpredictable. Exactly what Raylan needed. But they didn't make it 10 steps before Sari froze. I saw him, she whispered. The man from the alley. Raylan's heart dropped. He turned and scanned the crowd. Then he saw him too. Tall, dark cloak, calm face, standing at the edge of the square. He wasn't moving, but his eyes were locked on them. He's not alone, Lyra said quietly. 3 more, over there. Raylan didn't hesitate. He grabbed both girls, whispered, Hold on, and turned sharply down the nearest alley. The market was huge, filled with side paths, ramps, stairways, and moving platforms. If they moved fast, they could disappear. But disappearing with 2 children was harder than he thought. The crowd was thick, and Sari couldn't run. Fast, Lyra tried to help her, but she stumbled. Raylan lifted her into his arms and kept going, Lyra running beside him. Behind them, the men in cloaks began to move, not running, but walking with purpose. always keeping them in sight. Raylan ducked through a fabric shop, knocked over a stand of fruit, and leaped over a rail. The girls held on tightly, trusting him with every step. "They're getting closer," Lyra panted. They turned down a narrow passage, and Raylan spotted an open maintenance hatch. Without thinking, he pulled the girls inside, closing the panel behind them. The space was dark and filled with dust, but it was quiet. They sat in silence, listening. Footsteps passed just outside. Muffled voices spoke in a strange language. Sari trembled in his arms. Rollin held her tighter, whispering, "Shh, you're okay. I've got you." After a long pause, the footsteps faded. Lyra let out a breath. "That was close." Rollin nodded. "Too close." He turned to her. "Do you know this station?" She nodded. "A little. We hid here once before." "Good," he said. "You lead. We need a way out." They crawled through the tunnels, small maintenance paths meant for wires and cleaning bots. Lyra moved ahead with sharp eyes and quick hands, guiding them like she'd lived there all her life. After half an hour, they emerged into a quiet corner of the station, an old docking bay no longer used. Roland sighed with relief, but Lyra was still tense. "They won't stop," she said. "They know what we have." He reached into his bag and pulled out the broken toy. Its glow was stronger now, and it pulsed slowly. Alive. "What is it trying to do?" he asked. "I don't know," Lyra said, "but I think it's calling someone." Sari looked up at him, her voice soft. "Is it calling the bad men?" "No," Lyra whispered. "It's calling someone good." Raylan stared at the toy. What if it wasn't just a memory or a symbol? What if it was a key, a map, or a beacon? The cloaked men weren't chasing them for gold. They were chasing what the toy could awaken. And now, it was waking up. "We can't run forever," Raylan said quietly. Lyra nodded. "Then let's find who it's calling." Behind them, in the crowd of the station, the man in the dark cloak stood still once again. He smiled coldly as he whispered into a small comm device. "They're not just running anymore," he said. "They're following the signal." The old docking bay was dark and forgotten. No ships had landed there in years. The air smelled of rust and stale power cells. But to Raylan, it was shelter. To Lyra and Sari, it was something more. Safe space without watching eyes. They sat close together in the far corner. The broken toy rested on a metal crate between them. It glowed softly, but now the light pulsed in a slow rhythm. Like a heartbeat, Sari reached toward it with curious fingers. "It's warmer than before," she whispered. Lyra leaned forward, her voice steady. "It's waking up. I can feel it." Raylan rubbed his forehead. "I don't understand. What is it really? It's not just a toy, is it?" Lyra shook her head slowly. "No, it was given to our bloodline long ago. We were told it holds memory, guidance, protection, maybe more." Raylan picked it up, turning it gently in his hands. Under the glow, strange symbols shimmered across the cracked surface. They hadn't been there before, or maybe they had always been hidden. Lyra spoke again, softer this time. "My mother said, if it ever glows like this, the time has come." "The time for what?" Rollin asked. "She didn't say," Lyra replied. "Only that we must follow its light, and it would lead us to the place where our people once stood strong." Raylan stared at the glass. "You mean your homeland?" "No," Lyra said. "Something older, something deeper than land, something that was taken from us." Sari looked up, eyes shining, like a secret home. Rollin gave a small smile. "Maybe that's what it is." The toy suddenly pulsed brighter, and a faint hum filled the air. Raylan pulled his hand away in surprise. The toy floated a few inches off the crate, spinning slowly. Sari gasped and held on to Lyra's arm. Lyra's breath caught. "It's never done that before." Then, with a gentle click, a small panel slid open on the side. Inside was a crystal shard, clear, sharp, and filled with shifting light. Rollin reached out carefully and took the crystal between his fingers. As he touched it, an image flickered in the air above the toy, a projection, soft and blue, of a woman with long horns and calm, wise eyes. She looked a little like Lyra, but older, stronger, regal. "It's her," Lyra whispered. "It's our ancestor, the first seer." The projection began to speak, though the voice was old and soft. "My bloodline," it said. "If you see this, you have survived the fall." Sari's eyes widened. "She's talking to us." "You carry the last light of our people," the voice continued. "You must return it to the source. Only then can the truth be known. Only then can the chain be broken." The image flickered again and showed a glowing star map. It highlighted a system far from the current galaxy, unknown, dark, empty according to most records. "The chain fears this place," the seer's voice said, "because they were born there, and they buried their past there." The image faded, the crystal dimmed, and the toy gently dropped back onto the crate. Silence filled the docking bay. Lyra was the first to speak. "She left us a message, a path." Raylan's eyes were still locked on the map in his memory. "It's more than that," he said slowly. "It's a warning and a challenge." He turned to Lyra. "Your people were wiped out because they knew the truth. This toy, this shard, it's not just a guide, it's proof." Sari looked frightened. "What do we do?" Raylan stood, determination in his voice. "We follow it. We find the system. We find the truth." Lyra rose beside him. "But they'll follow us. They won't stop." He nodded. "Then we don't stop either." A soft sound echoed from above, metal creaking, a hatch opening. Raylan quickly put the crystal and toy back into his bag. He pulled the girls behind a crate. Footsteps echoed in the corridor, slow and heavy. Whoever was out there was searching, Raylan whispered. "We need transport, something fast." Lyra whispered back. "I know a pilot. She used to help my mother. If she's still here, she might take us." "Where?" Raylan asked. "Dock 9, Lyra said. "But it's risky. It's close to where the chain watches." "We don't have a choice," he said. The footsteps passed, fading into the distance. They waited 1 minute, then 2. Finally, Raylan motioned for them to move. He took Sari's hand. Lyra followed close. As they slipped out of the docking bay and into the shadows of the station, the toy pulsed again inside Raylan's bag. Stronger, faster, and far away, back in a quiet control room, the man in the dark cloak stared at a screen. A red light blinked where the signal had just activated. He smiled coldly. "They've found the crystal," he whispered. "Now the real hunt begins." The station lights flickered above them as they moved through the dim halls. Raylan kept his back low, scanning every corner, every door. Sari held his hand tightly, her tiny fingers warm and trembling. Lyra walked ahead, her eyes sharp, every step confident but careful. Dock 9 wasn't far, but every corridor felt longer now. The pressure wasn't just from behind, it was in the air itself. Something unseen had shifted. The toy in Raylan's bag pulsed again, faster this time, like it was warning him, urging him. "There," Lyra whispered, pointing to a half-broken sign glowing faintly. Dock 9, clearly marked, yet forgotten by most. They slipped through the cracked doors and stepped into a wide hangar bay. A small, beat-up ship sat in the center, its hull patched with different metals, but it hummed softly, still alive, still ready. Beside it stood a tall alien woman with skin like silver stone and eyes like molten glass. She turned as they approached, her gaze falling on Lyra first, then narrowing at Rollin. "You brought strangers," she said, her voice low and powerful. Lyra stepped forward. "This is Rollin. He saved us." The woman looked at Raylan for a long moment, then at Sari. "I remember your mother," she finally said. "She helped many, including me." Raylan didn't speak. He just opened his bag and pulled out the glowing toy. The woman's eyes widened. "I thought it was lost." "It chose them," Raylan said quietly. "And now it's leading us somewhere the chain doesn't want us to go." The pilot nodded slowly. Then I'll fly you, but once we leave, there's no turning back. We understand," Lyra said firmly. They boarded the ship quickly, the ramp closing behind them with a soft hiss. Sari looked around the cabin with wide eyes. "It smells funny," she said, trying to smile. "It smells like freedom," Raylan whispered back. The engines roared to life, shaking the floor under their feet. Raylan sat near the cockpit while the girls stayed buckled in behind him. The pilot activated the launch codes and the ship began to lift. But just as they cleared the docking platform, alarms echoed through the station. The chain had found them. "Strap in," the pilot shouted. "We're breaking through!" Blaster fire struck the shields as they punched through the upper hangar doors. The ship spun, twisted, and shot forward into space. Sari screamed but didn't let go of Lyra's hand. Lyra stayed quiet, her jaw tight. Raylan watched the stars stretch around them as they jumped into light speed. The gunfire, the station, the dark cloaks, all vanished in a blink. Silence returned. The pilot let out a breath. "We're clear. For now." Raylan turned to the girls. "Are you all right?" Sari nodded quickly, then crawled into his lap again. Lyra sat beside them, her voice softer now. "Where do we go next?" Raylan took out the crystal, the one hidden inside the toy. He held it up, and the star map returned. The coordinates shimmered in the air, a hidden system, unmarked on modern charts. "There," he said. "That's where it wants us to go." The pilot studied it. "That system, I've heard stories. They say it was a place of light long ago, then darkness swallowed it." "Maybe it's time to bring the light back," Raylan replied. Hours passed, and the ship floated gently through the stars. The girls rested, curled together under a thermal blanket. The toy lay between them, still pulsing with soft light. Raylan sat beside them, staring at the stars through the window. He thought about how this started. A piece of bread in a market. He had only wanted to help a hungry child. Now he was carrying the key to a forgotten history, and the weight of a promise he had never spoken aloud. Lyra stirred and sat up slowly, her voice quiet. "Why didn't you walk away?" He looked at her, surprised by the question. "You could have left us in the market," she said, "but you didn't. Why?" Raylan thought for a long moment before answering. "Because the world's full of people who walk away," he said, "and I'm tired of being one of them." Lyra didn't speak for a while, then reached into her pocket. She pulled out a tiny charm, metal, worn, shaped like a leaf. "This was my mother's too," she whispered. "I kept it hidden. I wanted to give it to someone who would never throw it away." She placed it in his hand. Sari woke up and looked at them, smiling sleepily. "Is he ours now?" Lyra smiled gently. "Yes." The moment felt quiet but powerful. Not a ceremony, not a promise spoken aloud, but something deeper. A bond of trust, of chosen family. Not because of blood, but because of choice. The toy glowed brighter for a moment, then dimmed again, as if it agreed. Raylan closed his hand around the charm and whispered, "Then I'll never leave you." Ahead of them, in the deep black of space, the lost system waited, full of old secrets, ancient light, and dangerous truth. But together, they would face it, not as strangers, not as fugitives, but as something stronger, a family.